how on earth this guy, who's not a lawyer, managed to persuade so many lawyers and legal people to come and do this event.
Bradley, we can edit this bit out if you'd like to.
I think maybe I was a little bit naive. I was working on a building site. I was a labourer. I think I nearly cried. And then I had about £200 left in my bank account. I went to TK Maxx, bought a suit, went into London. I got the job.
I guess I'm super inspired by that, Bradley.
I think we've managed to prove a lot of people wrong.
Notoriously risk averse, notoriously stuck in their ways, notoriously very scared of change. The legal industry is experiencing a major transformation. Tech advances, new business models. It's not the same industry it was just a few years ago. And those who adapt will be positioned for success in the future of law. Today we're sitting down with Bradley Collins, the co-founder and CEO of LegalTechTalk, Europe's legal tech event for legal transformation. With hundreds of speakers attending from the world's top law firms and legal tech companies across the globe, we can see how Bradley's goal of making this event the number one catalyst for innovation in the legal space could easily become a reality. Today we're talking to Bradley about how he's in the process of building the world's largest legal tech conference for 2025, his journey of tapping into an industry that he was pretty much an outsider of, and how he thinks the industry is changing.
That was very diplomatically put there, Bradley.
Disruptors don't cause disruption. Disruption causes disruptors.
Is it true there's going to be a massive party boat?
So, Bradley, both me and Helen have worked in the legal sector, and we know how difficult it is to tap into this industry when you're not a lawyer. I think with the legal industry, this is what I found anyway. If you're like an outsider, then you're treated like an outsider. And if you're in, and you're kind of just accepted. So when you went and created like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, you'll have to tell me, legal event in Europe, and both me and Helen went to it, and it was absolutely incredible, probably one of the best events I've ever been to. I was thinking, how on earth did this guy, who's not a lawyer, manage to persuade so many lawyers and legal people to come and do this event? How did you do it?
First of all, you make me blush a little bit. Thank you for the compliments. I don't know. I think maybe I was a little bit naive. I've worked in events. I've built some of the biggest events. So I've been involved with building some of the biggest events in a number of different industries. So when I was at the rooftop at a big insurance event we did in New York for about 6,000 people with Mikkel, who's my co-founder, we've built the biggest insurance event in 3 continents, or we've been big components in building these. We can do this in any industry. Let's go and do it ourselves. And the question was, which industry do we want to go in? There's only one sector we could find that was slower than insurance to innovate. So it was like, okay, let's go into legal. There's not really a huge event in legal in Europe that compares to the big events that exist in other industry sectors, and compared to some of the big events in America as well. So there seemed to be a little bit of a gap here. I know there's some great events already, but we saw a gap. So I think maybe being naive, it was a bit tricky at first to convince people. We spent 18 months working on one event, so we gave ourselves a lot of time to build relationships. We're good on LinkedIn. I mean, you guys have amazing LinkedIn presence, and that was also an important thing for us. I built a big community in insurance. I think having a strong track record, showing people, look what we did in another industry or other industries, we're going to do the same. And I also think there was a need, like the legal industry is about to go through, or is at the beginning, it's already starting to go through what will be a seismic shift, a huge change. And I think there's also curiosity and excitement and fear about the changes, the innovations, like AI is changing things quite a bit, and people want to know what's going on. So I also think there's a need. I feel like I should give you more of a comprehensive answer here, but I didn't know it was such a tricky industry until people told me it was.
Absolutely. And I think so many interesting points you just touched on there about the future and law and AI, and I think why Legal Tech Talk is so big because of all of those different things. But just rewinding slightly, because I think, even if you have been a lawyer, it takes such a huge amount of confidence just to reach out to so many people and, just create something. And I guess I'm just really curious about, I suppose, your backstory, like, how did you become such a confident person? How did you become that person who could just go out there and, create something so big?
My mum gave me confidence when I was a kid. She always told me I was good looking and the best. So maybe I have to thank my mum. I think resilience is built. I come from a sales background, so I started off when I was 18 or even 16, cold calling people, doing market research calls, asking people to share 10 minutes of time to talk about how much they enjoy their business banking, and getting told to, I was going to swear, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, to F off. And that was all a game, just calling people up with nothing to lose, everything to gain. So I think he builds resilience over time. And in terms of confidence in this sector, I think I'm an expert. And between me and Mikkel and the team we've built, I'm really confident in what our ability to do what we said we were going to do. Over the last 4 or 5 years, me and Mikkel was both involved with building by far the biggest events in Europe and Asia in the insurance sector, and the second biggest show in America. So we kind of got a blueprint. We're confident in it. There's no reason why we can't do this in this sector. We've learned a lot over the years. And before that, I was involved in the company that runs the biggest fintech events in the world, the biggest advertising event in the world. I was involved with the team that built the biggest marketing event in the UK. So we feel like we know what we're doing. So hopefully that comes across. And even the people that didn't believe us at the beginning changed their mind when other people believed us. And, you see a speaker lineup of 200 amazing people, the 100 people that we added later on that maybe thought we were a bit nuts at the beginning, changed their mind. It's that social proof. Seeing people like you guys on our agenda, maybe thought, maybe it's going to be a good event.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting you talk about there the sort of the social proof, people believing you, and then everyone sort of jumping on the bandwagon. And I think, lawyers can learn a lot from you because, I spend a lot of my life talking to them about BD, how to put themselves out there. They're very technically able, a lot of them, but actually what they don't do, perhaps because of imposter syndrome or God knows what else, they're not actually putting themselves on the line. So I do have such a huge amount of respect for what you're doing here. And Bradley, we can edit this bit out if you'd like to, but I'm just actually remembering something you said to me, which really stuck with me actually when we were at the Legal Tech Talk. I think it was at the Sky Bar. And you were
God.
just saying to me, actually, yeah, I'm remembering that now. So if you don't remember, it's totally fine. But it was just about you saying that actually, like, you didn't come from privilege, you didn't come from like a rich background or anything like that, and you've always been somebody who's had to work really hard and just like make your future, make things happen for you. And I guess I was really inspired by that, and so that was just something I wanted to ask you a bit more about.
Thank you. I don't remember every conversation I had in the Sky Bar. There was a lot of cocktails involved, but I come from probably not a typical background that you'd expect in the legal industry. I guess I'm not a lawyer. I lived on a council estate. I was with a single mum. Couldn't go to university. I had to pay my own phone bill when I was studying, and had to start making money early. And I think all of that I wouldn't change any of it because it's made me who I am. It's made me resilient. I got to experience good things as a child as well, seeing family succeed and other people succeed. And I got playing tennis when I was 13. Couldn't afford to do the coaching lessons, but the coach just took me in and he coached me for free and then paid for me to become a tennis coach when I was a young age. So having people like that, I call him my Mr. Miyagi, Graham, who was a great figure for me. Yeah, so I don't come from a typical lawyer background, but I think the background has made me, I don't know, tenacious. I've always been ambitious. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I wouldn't change my background. I think it's helped a lot.
Yeah, no, I really resonate with that because I think that's amazing what you just said about your tennis coach, like sort of seeing your talent and actually just taking you on, notwithstanding that maybe you weren't paying for it at the time. And I think, I remember I actually had jobs from the earliest age from when I was 13. Honestly, you name it, I've probably done that job, paper round, dishwashing, bartending, I've worked on the front of nightclubs, everything. And I think when I came into law, one of the big things was I just thought, oh my gosh, I feel like an outsider. I feel like I can't break into this industry. So, I love your story from this kind of also like social mobility perspective. It's like, actually, what does it give you coming from a background where maybe, yeah, you did have to really work for things. You had to forge your own path. And I think what's incredible is, I can see you as the boy at 13 who's there with that sort of raw talent. And now you're setting up the world's biggest events and just breaking into any industry he wants. And I guess I'm super inspired by that, Bradley.
It sounds like we had a similar career path from the early days. I think I did all of those other than the dishes. I was never big on the dishes, but no, it's really nice to hear. Yeah, I'm quite proud with what we're doing and the impact that we're having. And you mentioned social mobility. I don't think we shouted about this much, but we partnered with a company called SEO London that help nurture talent from maybe less privileged backgrounds and get them into the industry. So we had a lot of volunteers at the event who helped us run the event. So thank you to all those volunteers. But there were people that come from, not so privileged backgrounds, parts of the country, couldn't go to certain universities. They helped us with the event, but we made sure we had way more volunteers than we needed so they could enjoy the event and network and meet people. And I've heard quite a few of them that have now got jobs from people they met at the event, which is great to hear. So we're trying to kind of do our bit. It's not just about innovation. We're trying to kind of drive positive change in the industry, and a lot of other industries have evolved a lot, and legal not so much, but I think it will.
If you had advice for a young person who was thinking, gosh, I don't have the means, I don't have the background, I don't have the skill set to do what they want to do, whether that's break into law or something else, what would you say to them?
Go and get the skill set, I would say. I mean, it starts with belief and being consistent and working hard and having a clear goal in mind. And even if you break it down into smaller goals to work towards a bigger goal, I would say a book that really helped me when I was younger was The Secret. I read that when I was 16, and it's all about ask, believe, receive were the three words I took away from that. You got to believe in something that you've already got it before you've achieved it, but then ask, whether it sounds a bit cheesy, ask the universe, but you ask people. I mean, people help you if you ask. If that really helped, and I think being a good person, not burning bridges, always trying to help other people as well, kind of comes back around in the end.
I think it's so inspiring / crazy that you read that book at the age of 16. I wish I read that at 16. I read it literally I just discovered it a few months ago, and it probably would have changed my life if I read it, I don't know, 20 years prior. But what was it in that book that took you on this path to feel like you could create the biggest legal event in Europe?
I remember after I think I read it for a second time, I was working on a building site. I was a laborer. It was raining. I was digging this hole in mud. It was muddy. It was raining. I think I nearly cried. And then I went on holiday and come back and for 2 weeks, and the guy on the building site was like, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm back from holiday." He was like, "I didn't know he was going on holiday. I thought you'd left." So anyway, that was my last day there, and I just finished rereading the book. And then I had about £100, £200 left in my bank account. I went to TK Maxx, bought a suit, went into London. I was I was in a recruitment company, up against, I think, 10 other recent grads. I was the youngest one there. They'd all just come out of uni. I hadn't gone to uni. Two of them studied law, actually, and this was to get a media job at Central Media, which is the company that owns The Lawyer for people in the legal industry. And out of 10 of them, I got the job. And I remember sat there just having this confidence from the book that this is my job. And the guy said I was oozing aura. So I think it's this self-belief. So I don't want to say the word belief too much because you've got to back it up. But that was the sort of big thing from that book. It was a sort of, I guess, charisma and aura that I felt from it.
Honestly, Bradley, I think hearing you talk about that, it might sound a bit over the top, but I genuinely feel quite emotional there. I can see you in the mud on that building site. I can see like that £100, £200 left in your bank account, and that kind of, I'm just going to TK Maxx and I'm going to make that. And I mean, how did that feel when you were offered that job?
That was really cool. I remember coming out the interview thinking, I've got the job. The last thing, the recruiter told me to say this at the end of the interview. He said, when they ask you, have you got any questions, say, when do I start? And I remember saying that and seeing them smile. And so that was amazing. I mean, not many people. I guess I'm out in Hertfordshire from a council. There's a lot of trouble, and from not everyone has done, managed to kind of get really really strong career paths from sort of people I grew up with, let's say. So that was a really good feeling, and then I felt like I had to work harder than everyone else. I remember there was five of us that started on the sales team. Out of the five of us, I think I brought in more revenue than everyone put together in those first 3 months, and then I got to choose which company within the group I went in, and it all kind of snowballed from there. But I've worked very hard, very hard. I remember when cold calling, I don't know, the Will Smith film where he doesn't put the phone down, he just keeps dialing. That was me.
Oh my gosh, I'm just picturing you doing like a million different jobs. Like, I don't know, you just mentioned so many different roles, like sales, construction site. Like, I'm just imagining you in just literally every role
Yeah, I was tennis
possible.
coaching at the time as well. That was a big thing.
Oh my gosh. Take us back to the beginning. So you decided to set up Legal Tech Talk. Where on earth did you start? What was the beginning for you?
The first thing was to choose a time of the year. So I was like, okay, Legal Week is in January. I can't remember when it is now, but I was mapping out all the events around the world, and it's like, okay, where is the gap? Which month can we do this in? And we want to work backwards from there. So we gave ourselves 18 months to build this one event. Once we had a date in mind, a venue on hold, we didn't have enough money to pay the deposit for the venue when we started, but the venue knew us, so we managed to hold the date. It was then about going out and getting speakers. We wanted to get some big names, and it was a sort of a snowball. When we got one or two good speakers, then we could get one or two more, and one and two more, getting them up on the website. When you have enough good speakers, you can start getting sponsors. The first few sponsors, maybe you could say they took a bit of a punt, a bit of a risk with us, because we, I don't know if I can say this out loud, but we had no means to pay. We bootstrapped for the venue. So every time we got a new sponsor in, we paid off a bit more of the venue. We put the deposit down. We always believed in ourselves that we would make enough money to put on a good event, but we didn't quite know who was going to put on the event of the level that we did. Luckily, we managed to. Yeah, I mean, you guys were there. It was pretty epic. We invested everything we made back into the event, into the good quality coffee and the production, the lighting, the mist machine, the party, the lasers, the light, yeah, the sound, everything. Gives you a bit of an idea. We're also, building a big community online. Our LinkedIn has been more engaged than most legal pages around the world over the last year, and we've only just got that going. We've got quite a big newsletter following now. We did our first podcast recording last week, so there's a few other things in the pipeline.
That sounds absolutely amazing. And I think you just touched on it there, but for anyone listening, like, it really was epic. There were sort of mirror ball dancers. There was like big music stages. It felt like you were kind of in a Vegas club. It really did have that feel to it. And it was so cool. And I'm really not surprised that you're doing really well in terms of the sort of social media, LinkedIn, newsletter side of things, because, just being completely frank, most law firms and lawyers out there, they sort of have quite notoriously boring company pages and all this other stuff. So I think it's amazing that we've sort of got this freshness with you into the industry, and pumping it with something new,
Good.
very much needed. I'm not sure if you've heard that feedback sort of more generally. I'm sure you've had a lot of compliments.
We wanted to bring some freshness. I mean, looking just at the industry, it is, just looking at other events around the world that take place in the legal industry, and quite a few of them just feel a bit kind of corporate and stuffy and dry, and not much energy. I think people do it because they have to do it. It's their job, and we kind of wanted to create that environment where people have to do it because it's their job, but also because they want to. So we're kind of blurring the lines between business and personal, business and pleasure. But when people want to be there genuinely, actually, like, it wasn't that difficult to put on in legal, because there's other good fun events already, but it wasn't that. I think.
I think that was very diplomatically put there, Bradley.
Yeah. Trying not to offend anyone.
There are lots of other really good things. No, I know you can't. You have to be a little bit careful with words there, but I'll say it for the industry. We are in much need of what you're offering. One thing that I really loved about what you just said there was actually how you bootstrap the whole thing, but you had this vision and you didn't know at the beginning whether you were going to be able to pull it off to the full extent. I guess this goes back to the whole secret thing, doesn't it? The whole like manifestation. You visualize where you want to be, you believe it, you feel it. And that's how then you make that happen. Just for any listeners who a bit, don't have that background there as well. What I love about that as well is, I speak to so many lawyers who they don't want to put themselves out there again. They don't want to, whether it's building a law firm, whether it's building their business or just building their brand, actually they're too afraid to believe in something or create it in their mind before they step into it. So I just love that again, that you literally visualized it and actually you sold it to sponsors without, obviously you believed in it and you were fully committed. But at that point, I've been in that sort of situation myself. You're sort of praying, hoping, fingers crossed at that point, I think.
Not everyone believes in it. I mean, if you speak to John Bartman, he definitely didn't. He was a naysayer. He jokes about it now. He's a friend. He won't mind me calling him out. But not everyone did. I mean, we had a couple of law firm leaders that we spoke to that they looked on our website, and at the time it said building Europe's biggest legal event or legal tech event, and they just laughed at us. They're like, we don't know who you are. How can you put that on your website? So we changed it to Europe's event for legal transformation, but we knew it would become, if not already, the biggest event. But then, yeah, those same people got in touch about 4 months, 5 months later when they saw the lineup. They're like, oh, actually, this looks pretty good. So I think we've managed to prove a lot of people wrong, and it comes back to having that vision and believing in it and going all in on it. Believing in it isn't enough. We worked a lot of long hours. The team's been super committed. We've worked quite smart, I think, and managed to make a lot of friendships along the way. And then people help us make introductions, and I think we're doing a good thing for the industry. So I think that helps.
When you did your talk at Legal Tech Talk, you asked the audience, are you scared of change or excited about change? And they said excited. Do you genuinely believe that lawyers are actually excited about change?
Not all of them. I was expecting more of a split, but I think it was 100% said excited, and in good memory, by the way, Holly. Glad to hear you was in the audience for that one. I think not, but I think what is driving people to attend is the fear as well, because people are worried about losing their jobs, that are their jobs going to change, especially the more senior people. That why change? Our life's good right now. We don't want to change. I think the more junior people and people coming through maybe I think are a little bit more excited. There's going to be a lot of new roles, a lot of new jobs that come from innovation. I think law firms will start accepting people from all sorts of different unis because they need different talent now than they did before, which is great. But no, I think there's an equal amount of fear and excitement is my sense.
I think there's more fear than excitement personally. And I think that's what's so amazing about what you've achieved with the Legal Tech Talk, that you've got all these people on board, people who are notoriously risk averse, notoriously stuck in their ways, notoriously very scared of change and technology.
If you're scared, you have to be that, because all your competitors are going to hear about these changes that are going to happen and get ahead. If you're worried about it, you have more reason to come.
That's a really good point, that.
We played on that a little with the marketing, but it's true. If everyone else is learning about this tech that's going to make them better at their job or make their law firm better than yours, and you don't, then your fears might come true.
I just think you are right. And everything that was spoken about at the Legal Tech Talk within the different stages about AI, transformation, the industry as a whole, all very relevant stuff, the billable hour, so much relevance there in terms of changing the industry. What do you see from your perspective? How do you see the legal industry changing in the future?
Again, I'm new to the industry, so I'm sometimes a little bit naive to the intricacies and the history of the sector. But I look at all the other sectors as a sort of guidance as to kind of what might happen. And I think the business model will need to change, because historically, I mean, if you charge by the hour, what incentive do you have to become more efficient? AI is there to make you more efficient and to get you do things much quicker in the large part. So that might need to change, and I think it will have to for real innovation to happen. I think the business model of law, I mean, if you look at every other sector, what's the Airbnb for legal? What's the Netflix for legal? Like, we used to all go to Blockbuster, pick up our DVD, come home. We couldn't conceive of another way of finding films that we wanted, but now we do. Is there going to be a Netflix of the legal industry? I think that we will increase market share. So we talk about access for justice. If you're talking about personal law, 50% of the people in the UK don't have access to legal aid or advice when they need it because it's too expensive and it's slow. It's not a great process. Through innovation, maybe we can provide access to legal to small businesses, to many more people and companies that need it, which I think increases the market share, which I think means the law firms that do innovate can serve more customers, maybe at a lower cost, but they can win more market share. So I think we're going to see fewer law firms that really succeed and maybe some that disappear in the years ahead. Maybe it'll be a slightly different place to work if tech can help us. Maybe we don't need to be in the office 4 days straight on a case until 3 a.m. without sleeping. Maybe mental health will improve, hopefully, in the industry. Obviously diversity is a big topic, and having kind of more diverse leaders at a senior level, I hope will change, and it's something we try and help with. We try and make sure we have a very even split between female, male leaders on stage, for example. Getting exposure helps anyone in their career, so we try and help where we can on those sorts of things. Maybe we'll see people in law firms wearing jeans and trainers and t-shirts at some point. I don't know. I've seen it in other sectors. You're shaking your head. I think maybe there'll be new law firms that exist tomorrow that don't exist today that do, potentially. Yeah, there's some potential changes.
It's very interesting what you say there, Bradley, and I think we are in for change that is not foreseen by many in the industry. I think you're right. I think we're still stuck in a bit of a rut in this sort of inefficiency cycle. I was speaking to a client just earlier this week who was talking to me about actually how certain people are put on matters, even though it's not the most efficient, because they know they're going to bill more. They'll take more time, the more junior, but actually it works out as more profitable. People don't say that stuff explicitly, but it's happening all the time. I think what's interesting though about what you say is, in terms of, I don't know, a Netflix for legal, or this idea that law is more accessible, changing law firms. I do wonder how quickly that's going to happen at the high end. And I'm aware that, your sponsors of Legal Tech Talk, for example, are a lot of the big law firms, that they don't service the everyday people or the people on the street. What's your take in terms of, like big law, the future, the stuff you're doing, legal tech? I mean, it's a pretty broad question, but I guess I'm just curious from that angle.
So what was the question? My view on big law. So I think smaller law firms, maybe mid-sized law firms, will start competing. I know if there's like $1 billion lawsuit, you're going to go to maybe a Magic Circle, and I think that won't change for a long time, because if it's such an important case. But I do think that there'll be more innovation happening on the smaller law firm side, and maybe the mid side, which will then in turn mean the bigger law firms have to sort of follow suit if they start losing market share. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but like you look at every other industry, like banking, it's a highly regulated market, and all of a sudden you've got Monzo and Revolut, taking market share from the big banks. They didn't exist 10 years ago. I had an investor get in touch the other day, who said that he thinks legal tech is the next fintech. I mean, since 2010, the amount of investment and growth and change has happened in the fintech space, the payment space. There's thousands of unicorns now in billion-dollar fintechs around the world. When I got into legal or started researching it, there were only two, and I think that's at least 10x since then in the last year or two. So there's a lot of disruption happening. The world can change a lot, I think, more than we know, but I don't think it's going to be quick. I don't think anything will be quick in such a highly regulated space, but it's definitely going to happen.
Do you see yourself as a disruptor in the legal industry?
I will copy a quote I heard from Daniel Schreiber of Lemonade, which was the first insurtech unicorn. What did he say? Disruptors don't cause disruption. Disruption causes disruptors. Which I thought was a good quote. And I don't know if it's even meaningful to your question about me. I don't know if I'm a disruptor. I think we're a market maker, a change maker.
Oh, Oh, that feels really deep. So if that's meaningful to you then in this context, what does that mean for you here?
Change is inevitable, and either you can lean into it or not. But I think those that lean into it will remain relevant in the years ahead.
So you've positioned yourself in a very, very good position. I feel that's my opinion of you in Legal Tech Talk. Perfect moment, perfect timing, perfect industry,
It is.
perfect.
That was the biggest decision in the early days that I think we've got right is the industry. It's
Yeah.
because every other industry is a little further ahead. It's gone through, big changes, and the sector's at the very beginning of it. So it does feel like the right time to be. Yeah, it's exciting.
On that note, then, what are the future plans for Legal Tech Talk?
We're quite focused on building, the event. So from the event perspective, I've been to big events in other industries. My co-founder's out in Vegas right now at a big retail event. We get a lot of inspiration from the biggest events in other industry sectors. So our focus is to, establish ourselves as the first event in your diary every year if you live in Europe that you want to go to. So that's the first goal, and maybe in 2026 we will festivalize it. You see events like London Tech Week, which just takes over London. Everyone told me legal is a small industry and it's niche, but I think it's not. Yeah, I've seen trademark events that has like 12,000 people. Not that we want to do anything to do with trademarks, but that's under the legal umbrella. I was approached by another event company a while back to launch a regulation tech event for them. So like there could be a whole event dedicated to compliance and AI because that's a big evolving area. So maybe we'll create a big festival of law and take over London at some point with events all over London in different areas because there's not one venue big enough to do what we want to do. At some point, maybe we'll consider going into a new region once we've fully established ourselves here and it's easier. I just saw that South by Southwest is moving to London. I don't know if you know that event, pretty huge. I have like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg speaking and I don't know, Buster Rhymes and all sorts of crazy parties. It's a huge festival, but maybe we can do a mini version, like a legal version of that. Start doing podcasts, we do webinars, we produce research reports. So we're providing content all the time around innovation. So we want to give the sort of insights and inspiration around change in law and innovation and then connect people together essentially. But we're not going to distract ourselves from the event and building that special event that happens every year.
So I've got a really important question actually on next year's event, Bradley. Holly knows what I'm going to say now. Is it true that there's going to be a massive party boat?
It's the best boat we could possibly find on the Thames. We did sign the contract 2 weeks ago. I don't want to put off senior law firm people by saying it's a big party because they might not be allowed to go.
I used to be senior in a law firm. I wasn't completely boring. I'm hopeful there's other non-boring senior people in law firms.
Yeah, the people will want to go, but they've got to justify it. But we are doing a dinner along the Thames.
A dinner? Have I just completely ruined your marketing now on this
No.
party boat?
And it will be fun, and I'm sure there will be a little bit of dancing at some point during the evening.
Okay, amazing.
So
amazing.
the rumors are true.
Amazing. And just
the rumor came from you, Bradley.
Yeah.
From you in the Sky Bar after several cocktails. I think that's where I'm gathering most of my research for this podcast. I think.
So we followed through. It's happening. Yeah. So maybe the festival idea in 2026 is not too far fetched.
I love it. And just to check in with you as well, I feel like perhaps you spilled another secret for us just before we started this podcast, which you touched into ever so briefly there, which was about you yourself at Legal Tech Talk launching a podcast, which sounds really exciting. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a trial and error, and I'm learning from you guys, so thank you on how to do a good podcast. But I did an in-person interview with the guys at Ashurst, two of the senior leaders there, about the rollout of Harvey. So that's recorded. We have video footage from it. I think it will be released on some podcast channels soon. But it's really the sort of, I've not done it before, so it's a trial type thing. But hopefully, I mean, we have so many great speakers and people to speak to. Like we had 300 speakers in the last event. We've already got 120 speakers confirmed for the next event. Completely different people. So we have a huge pool of amazing people with great things to say. Why not spread their stories out across different channels? Why wait until the conference? So yeah, we should have our first one coming out quite soon. Before this call, 3 minutes before the call, Jeff, my camera guy, called me up and, Brad, I've just done the pre-roll footage for the podcast. We've got the intro, and I haven't had a chance to see it yet, so
Oh
I
my
will
God.
after this.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So are we doing competing podcasts now?
I guess we are. I guess we
I'll
are.
invite you to mine.
No,
Don't worry.
no, yeah, no. We'll have to have it out on the party boat, Bradley.
Yeah.
The dinner boat, sorry, the dinner boat, the
The
formal
dinner boat.
Dinner boat.
Exactly.
We are so excited to help you unlock LinkedIn's potential with our LinkedIn Starter Pack for lawyers. Across 11 chapters, we'll walk you through creating a profile that stands out, crafting content that connects, and building a network that works for you. It's designed to help you take your career or business to the next level. It's completely interactive, so it's not like reading a dull book on marketing. Go to the link in the description of this episode for more information.